Okay, guys, we've got a lot of people coming in, flowing in here, and we're not even at time, so we'll give it one more minute, and we will jump in.
Cool.
Let's just do Jonathan. You sound good. Ari, you
Yeah,
sound
no, I'm
all right.
ready to
Awesome.
rock and roll. Should be a good conversation.
This is gonna be a lot of fun. All right, we're recording this for posterity. Um, let's jump in. It's the top of the hour, and we are super excited about this. This is a really exciting thing. We're so glad everybody's joining us. Thank you for jumping on and taking your time to spend with us today. My name is Jeremy Leduc, and we're here to talk about the new HawkSearch AI Shopping Assistant. It's a conversational experience, and with me I have our president and CEO Ari Khan. Thanks for being here, Ari. And we have Jonathan Meyer, our senior solutions engineer, and Jonathan's going to jump in a few minutes after we talk a little bit and do some setup and give us an actual live demonstration. So let's jump in. We're here to talk about the shopping assistant, and we want to start with the timeline. And Ari, I want to turn to you to walk us through this timeline. It's really important to understand where we've come from and where we are today, and where we're headed.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks everyone for joining us today. You know, um, Things are moving quickly into e-commerce, both on the B2B and on the B2C side, in fact. And if you take a look at what's happened over the past few years in the e-commerce world, the majority of sales are happening through the search dialogue. In fact, 72% of all online sales go through search. And a few years ago, we were in a world of keyword-based search where everyone had to guess at what the exact words were that were inside of a product database in order to find the products that they wanted to buy. And if they wanted to buy more than one product, had to manually go in and search for all of those different products. As a result, yes, we were doing pretty well from an online revenue perspective, but we weren't having as high of an average order value as we want. We had more friction, reduced total sales, and abandonment because someone just couldn't find something and they were going to your competitor. That quickly evolved into what I'll call intent-based search. And this was really an AI-powered solution, natural language understanding, but more than that, truly understanding the intent of what your customers were looking for. So even if they weren't sure what to call something or what else they needed as they were filling out a cart, it was making assumptions and getting more products in front of your customers and increasing your average order value. Related to intent-based search, because the technology behind the scenes is the same, kind of the same. Also, image-based search came into the mix where customers could take a picture with their iPhone and make purchases that way as well. And not just in the B2C world, in the B2B world as well, as people were replenishing warehouses, for example, could use images or even images of order forms to make purchases. And this evolved into a search assistant. And that same interface that everyone had become so accustomed to purchasing through became conversational in nature to ask clarifying questions, to compare and understand different products for your buyers and help them find things more quickly, to find related products, increasing your average order size and increasing the total number of orders that you're making, driving revenue. Now, where we are today is that the technology behind Search Assistant has moved into a whole nother level where not only are we having conversational scenarios to clarify what a customer is looking for and expand on it, but taking it to the next agentic level of actually putting those items in a cart, building that cart for someone when they express what they're looking for. Hey, I want to, I don't know, redo my backyard with drains and outdoor flooding lights and so forth, putting together a whole package of products that someone might have missed and had to run down to a local store rather than buying from you online into that cart and creating a very frictionless environment. Now, this is where we are today. We've got big players that are launching buying assistants like this that are actually interacting with a cart. But this is a step towards a future that will include autonomous commerce. So very quickly, you're going to be able to empower your customers to be able to create their own workflows and agents to automate some of their purchasing. The simple example that people have been speaking about for years, which is a little bit creepy in my mind, but is a camera inside of your refrigerator that is ordering food for you. And then this will lead to an ultimate area where you have true A to A commerce, and that we're using whatever, some third party life assistant that is making purchases. And as quickly as all this stuff has gotten to the buying assistant level, the autonomous commerce and A to A commerce are going to come up quickly. But if you don't have a buying assistant in 2026, you better have it on your roadmap, because your competitors do. And your customers are very quickly becoming accustomed to this level of frictionless purchases, to more efficient purchases, and this is going to drive revenue. This is not just a better experience, this is a better top line for your company. Let's go forward.
I will say though, real quick, Ari, you'll appreciate this. You're a longtime entrepreneur. What that timeline strikes me of is the ability to leapfrog your competitors right now.
Yeah,
What an
right.
opportunity right now, right? To look at this as a competitive advantage to leapfrog.
Yep. And when you're the
That's
first
exactly.
one providing that buying assistant, when you're providing that frictionless environment that is even just reducing the click to have to put something into a cart, your competitors are going to be left in the dust.
Well, I agree. I'll be honest. It's hard for me to think that I'm going to tell some agent to go buy a bunch of stuff for me. But then again, 2 years ago, like we weren't using we weren't typing full questions into a chat and getting these amazing responses back that were saving us tons of time. So
Yep.
it's an
And it won't
amazing time.
feel foreign like that. It won't feel for your customer, B2B or B2C, like they're sending some agent, whatever that means, to go purchase for them. They're going to be interacting with your website and not having to, after they get a response from a search, go through those extra 2 or 3 clicks to stick something in, and then go back and search again to find the other compatible products that they needed, and then forgetting about one of them and having to run down to the store and buy it there rather than buying it on your site. And so it's going to just be much more seamless. That one extra click
Yeah.
saving of putting it in the cart, there's a lot more to it than that, but even that uh, can drive revenue.
Well, and speaking to that, that's why we wanted to take a couple minutes on this slide here and just talk about that, the behavior that's shifting and how much time it's saving everybody, right? And how much convenience there is and how much opportunity there is to fill the cart and build revenue with this, right? This is not just some new feature. This is a whole new paradigm, right? Of moving from very laborious typing in keywords, nope, didn't get it. Typing in more keywords, nope, didn't get it. I mean, just look at some of these benefits on the screen here. Just ask the question and it'll figure out what you're looking for, right? Don't sit there inside of 50 different facets and filter. Just say, well, can you give me 4 more recommendations that are like this, or can you give me this? Or the reviews. I mean, I buy a lot of things off of how important the reviews are, but I don't want to read through them all, right? It's just incredible, the time savings. There's a website called Meter, and it's tracking the time savings that like ChatGPT and Claude are offering us, right? It's tracking how much time savings, and that's exactly what this strikes me as, right? This is just putting the onus on the business to provide the incredible experience to just put stuff in the basket and buy it and move on with my day, and just save me a lot of time and work in trying to buy from you.
Yeah, the thing when I look at this chart here, the thing that leaps out at me is the old behavior. Every one of those steps under old behavior is a chance for someone to run into a brick wall, not find what they're
Yeah,
looking for, and
yeah,
abandon that. And that's a purchase, that's revenue that's lost to the
yeah,
company. If they searched the wrong keyword, didn't find what they're looking for, that's a loss. Going further down the list, if they couldn't be confident in their purchase by not understanding having to read through the various different reviews and come to a conclusion there. That's a chance for that purchase to be lost. The compatibility, the having to actually go through and build all those carts. Every one of those steps on the old behavior side of this chart is a chance for someone to leave the site and lose that sale.
Yeah. Yeah. Think of the loyalty you're building with building this kind of experience, right, for your customers. So, all right, great. And now the next slide really speaks to how much this is in our lives today. This is not just slowly creeping in. This is here right now. And obviously we all want to look to, the big companies who sell things to every household, on the planet every day. And these folks, they have these shopping assistants today. And if you haven't used one of these, you may have and didn't realize it, but definitely go to one of these sites and actually use, Amazon Rufus or Lowe's, Milo, and ask it a question. I'm building a 10 by 10 shed in my backyard and see what it tells you. It's
If
pretty
there's
incredible.
if there's any one thing, everyone take a screenshot of this right here. This is
Yeah.
so important. And there you have it in a nutshell. Your customers' buying behavior is being programmed by Amazon and Walmart and Target and so forth, right? They are going to be turned off if you don't have a shopping assistant. This is, it's like sometimes it's difficult to get budget for new technology. It's like, this is the expectation. I know it's brand new, but look at the logos there. Lowe's is doing it. Home Depot's missing. They got one as well. It's, we can't sit around and just wait for this to come to us. We have to run to it because our competitors know about this chart too and need to get on top of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it goes right back to Jeremy's leapfrog option. Like if you're to get on the same level as Amazon and Walmart, that leaves your competitors in the dust there then.
And it's totally possible. In fact, the next two slides, let's actually frame up. The next two slides are going to get into a little more detail about the benefit and the functionality itself required to do that, because it's all possible right now to do that leapfrog. So let's take a minute and talk about this. Let's put it in tangible, impact. These are some of the impacts we're seeing. These are some of the use cases, that we're seeing our customers and folks come to us and say, this is what I need, right? And a lot of times it's all of it, but in some cases it's, there's a real pain somewhere specifically. But these are some of the real world use cases that are providing incredible impact. Just looking at, just looking down the list, comparing options, right? That makes it a lot faster for you to, Jonathan, like you said, make that confident purchase, right? And before looking at this, it didn't occur to me how important it is to not only put it in your basket, but be really confident about that purchase so you actually click checkout and buy it. The growing basket one is a real big one. We come from a world of search and merchandising and recommendations, so we understand the value of what it means to offer, one more thing. This puts that on steroids. This is this is looking for things you forgot about in your basket and say, wait, you forgot about these three things. If you're baking a cake, you forgot about this.
Yeah.
So the list
And
goes
your
on and on.
customers might return customers might just not realize that there's a certain product that you have, and their pattern of behavior is that they're buying certain things from you and then running over to one of your competitors' sites for that last thing. And in a shopping assistant world where you're asking the more intent-based questions, seeing the full set of products that can fulfill that intention, including ones they didn't realize you have, all of a sudden your average order value goes up. And if you increase your average sale by just 3% per customer, like that's 3% growth right there, and 3% less for the other guy too, which isn't bad.
Yeah. And folks, we're almost there. We're almost to the demo. Just give us probably just 2 more minutes. But I'm going to call out that last one. I'm really proud of a feature I saw our team build out for our customers around that support, ask a question. And so we do a lot of work in the B2B space. And in B2B, you might have a a technical specification document, perhaps in PDF, that frankly hasn't been opened in years. right? But we actually built the ability to extract all that data out so that you could ask a really technical question right in a conversational experience on the website, and you could ask, and it'll actually go and grab a really specific answer to a question. And not only will it say here's the answer to that, but it'll actually say, and here's the tech spec it came from. So we're really leveraging AI to reduce those support calls and get those questions answered right inside the one seamless experience, right? That we're all getting used to. Like Ari said, we're all getting programmed to use this. So
Now, one thing that I'll mention is that although we're sitting here, we're talking about the future and all of our customers are going to be, using these new buying behaviors, the real world, especially in B2B, is that there are old habits as well. And those old
Mhm.
habits can also be enabled with a shopping assistant. And here's the sort of the poster child one that I love. I wish I had a piece of paper here for you that was pink. Imagine a pink order form that maybe used to get faxed and now in the, maybe someone fills it out as a PDF file and emails it to your team, right? But if they do have a written page, part of the shopping assistant can also be just take a picture of that order form. So when you've got that one buyer that's been around since 1970 and no one's changing the way that he's buying stuff, maybe he still uses your fax phone number. He can even use this thing.
yeah. Let's go to the last. We got one more slide here, and we did want to get a little technical just to show you that. I mean, there is certainly a lot of technology under the hood. As you guys know, I mean, Bridgeline's a 20-year-old company. HawkSearch is 15-year-old platform. I mean, so for us, we have been building on top of what we've built over the years. So yes, the conversational piece of it is really exciting, but don't forget, there are merchandising rules in place that you have to consider. You have spent a lot of time building your boost and bury rules and all of that. There's a lot of making sure you're being context aware, really, which is what makes us stand out from, say, just a chat bot, right? Is that our software comes from truly understanding the content and the products themselves. So the context aware is a really important part, and of course the entitlements, and making sure that you're presenting the right data to the right audience. These are conversations, I would say, probably come up every single time we talk about this, right? We've been talking about the
Mhm.
really exciting stuff, but all this stuff certainly has to be in place first,
You,
right?
yeah, from a technical perspective, I'll elaborate at that a little bit. Is you can envision that in the common software guys, they talk about stacks, and at the bottom of the stack is your most fundamental information, your product information, management system, for example, your product database, and so on. But our stack has fundamentally at a low level your merchandising rules, which products at this particular moment in time you want to boost, for example, and also B2B level entitlements, including custom pricing and other rules as to which customers are allowed to see which products and so on. And with that foundational capability, the AI, uh, large language models and shopping assistant sits up there. So your shopping assistant fundamentally only sees the products with the boosting score and so forth, uh, that are available for that particular login at that particular point of time, or if it's an anonymous user, still at that time, what you as a merchandiser want to boost, or if you have an AI agent, what it wants to boost. But but then that means that your shopping assistant doesn't even have the ability to show the wrong product to the wrong customer. And what happens is that when you see a chatbot company say, hey, now we want to have a shopping assistant. All right. And
Mhm.
it doesn't have any merchandising capabilities, or it's kind of pasting those on top of it. That's when things like hallucinations and other things can get in the way. So the proper way to do this is to start with the right data, rules, and entitlements at the foundation level. level, and then have your AI operate on top of that. So anyway, so we did that. I don't want to get into the weeds too much on that, but that, fundamentally because we're so strong on the merchandising side, which if you don't have good merchandising, if you can't boost things, if you can't set those rules, you're missing out on revenue opportunities all by itself. You have to do that. You have to do that with a commercial grade product like HawkSearch, and then above and beyond that, you have to get the leapfrog, as Jonathan mentioned. Get your AI shopping assistant out there, because Walmart and Target and Home Depot and Lowe's and Amazon are doing it. So this isn't like some fringe neat little thing anymore. This is mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
the adoption of those large players, it reminds me a lot like when recommendations became a big thing. Is like you could see the drive that Amazon and Walmart and all those other large companies were making with those kinds of tools. It's the same kind of at even a larger level, I would say, because it's such a fundamentally different approach to it. But it's the proof is in the pudding there in terms of these larger players are taking advantage of it. There's a reason they're taking advantage of
Right.
it, is because there's
And
revenue in there.
all those examples that we just laid out on that slide that I beg everyone to take a picture of are B2C. But B2C companies are really smart, and they really think about the core things that drive revenue, like the average order value, for example, repeat business, for example. And it all translates back into the B2B world, where, yes, we have more complicated processes and buying teams, and people are much more intentional about exactly what they're purchasing. They're not browsing and shopping as much. But those same core metrics that drive your online revenue are critical in the B2B world, and the shopping assistant will help you drive those as well, or your competitors.
All right. Well, here we are. We're at the moment of getting a great demo here of this. As we jump to that, I will let Jonathan get set up here, but there is a Q&A function in the Zoom webinar here, and please feel free to ask some questions, and we'll get those, and we'll either answer them here if I can, or if not, we'll certainly follow up and answer those questions.
Well, let's get into the practical demonstration here. So we want to run through a couple of different use cases, give you examples of how clients are currently leveraging this functionality and kind of the benefits. So we just kind of walk through all of that layout of like, major players are taking advantage of this functionality here, the benefits of that. Let's put the proof in the pudding here. So we're looking at Culligan. They're kind of that classic use case of they've got a product catalog, they've got all this documentation, they've got blogs and articles. There's a lot of information stored on the site, but how do you get access to this? It goes back to that exact question that we started with of like the old way of doing things was putting in a keyword search and then filtering through that. And that can be a really difficult thing when we're talking about kind of something as unique as and fundamental as water, because when we're talking about this, I can go into their search box here and now I can start with a question. I can say, instead of having to reach out to a representative, instead of having to troll through a bunch of different blog posts or articles, I can just ask something like, why does, if I can spell, why does my water smell bad? You can see I've done this once or twice before because our autocomplete is suggesting that there, but we're going to go ahead and pull back in those results here for this. And again, as an assistant here, as something that is understanding what I'm asking, not only are we leveraging kind of all, you go back to that first chart there or that first slide where we were building out the timeline. This is taking advantage of all of that functionality right up to that point of that assistant here, where we're seeing understanding what is this request actually asking here. Why does my water smell bad? Well, we're finding the frequently asked questions. We're delivering an answer for this. Well, why does your water smell bad? Well, if your water smells like rotten eggs, it's likely due to hydrogen sulfide or just sulfur, and providing a link to a particular product that might help address this issue. This got all of this information from the product catalog, from the content catalog. So again, to get into that idea of those, lacking hallucinations and avoiding those kinds of dead ends, we're really leaning into the idea of our tool can now understand what is this search request actually looking for, and how does that relate to our frequently asked questions. We understood that the rotten egg smell could be driven by hydrogen sulfide because we're seeing that as part of the response here in terms of the results that HawkSearch is returning, the products that we're selecting, the services that we're offering, the articles that are all related to this, and again driving that kind of summary response here to say, hey, let's start to lean into that assistant functionality to drive these kinds of experiences. And what we've seen with this kind of approach here is that we can really go even further with this. So this is a really kind of straightforward, like, hey, we've got back in, you've asked a question, we're delivering that answer for you. Here's maybe a little bit of a summary for that and maybe a product suggestion that we want to make. Well, we can go further with that. So here we're looking at TechoBlock. If you're unfamiliar with them, they work in kind of the patio pavers, patio slabs, fire pits, like that kind of stuff. And in their catalog, they have a lot of great products here, but it's all very technical. So this gets into some of those B2B use cases where we're seeing the idea of I might have a really specific question about the Borealis slabs that they offer here, but there's 37 different pieces of technical documentation that I'd need to crawl through to find what am I looking for out of that. What's the solar reflectance value? What swatches does it come in? The installation, like all of this information is available, but it's difficult to find and difficult to source through when all I've got is a very straightforward question that I want the answer to. Or even a more complex question. Honestly, it doesn't need to be something simple. But we can now ask that of the tool here. We can say, I know all the information about that Borealis slab. So what is the width of the Borealis slab? Let's just ask something like that. Pull back in our results here for that. And we're going to go ahead and get back in the response then that lets us know, okay, it's now looking through all of those 37 different pieces of technical documentation and delivering the exact answer to us. No fluff, no muss, just here's the answer. It's 24 inches, 610 millimeters. Here's the direct link to the documentation where we found it. So we're providing that confidence. We were talking earlier about kind of, the review summary and making sure that your customers are confident in the purchases that they're doing. Let's leverage all the technical documentations that when they're asking these questions, not only are we delivering an answer that's accurate, relevant, and correct, but we're giving them the confidence in this response because we're telling them exactly where we found that information. This isn't a hallucination. It's right there for your visitors to dig deeper into. But we want to take this a step even further where we can kind of, go even beyond these initial assistance of providing those responses back. Let's have a whole conversation. And so here we're looking at our assistant, one of our demonstrations. That's just so we can play around a little bit with what we're looking at here. Don't get too hung up on the UI. This is definitely developer UI here, just not kind of our demonstration site. We want to kind of prove out the functionality here. And so what we're able to do now is we can kind of start that same process. Let's start the buying journey. Even going back to that first kind of slide where Jeremy was breaking down, like the old way was like we're putting in keywords. And if you didn't put in the right keywords, it wasn't going to find what you were looking for. Well, now we can start that more conversationally. I'm looking for a halogen lamp or for halogen lamps, let's just say. And I'll go ahead and execute that search on my behalf, find the relevant results for me so that we know that we're getting back in the right product set here. So I've started that kind of conversation. It's pulling back in that information, and now it's giving me a summary of that as well. This is one of the great things about this approach is not just delivering the relevant results. Your customers can kind of have that back and forth, but giving them the guidance, giving them, again, that confidence, leveraging all of the technical documentation, all of the product attribution that you have around your product catalog. So it's telling us it found 15 lamps, various wattages and base types. Would you like me to help narrow down the options by specific category, wattage, base type you need? Providing that guidance. This is a part of that assistant functionality. We were talking about how, in the past, you'd do a search and pull back in something. Well, if you weren't aware of all of the options that were available, all of the product availability that you had there, this is helping guide your visitors towards what they really need. So I might say, oh yeah, I did a halogen lamp, but what I really need is, are any of these over 1,000 lumens? Because that's what I need for my project that I'm doing right now. Well, the assistant can look at all of the results that were just returned and identify which ones really are over 1,000 lumens. So I don't need to go be digging through a bunch of product detail pages. I don't need to be selecting a bunch of product comparisons. I can say, hey, assistant, tell me, are any of these over 1,000 lumens? It will provide that information for us. And it's not just this kind of high level information. Let's actually give it a little bit more of a complex request here. Give me a detailed breakdown of those two. So now it's going to look at all of the information it has access to and really be very verbose. It's going to break down everything for us in terms of the output that it's aware of, the applications that it's used for, the voltages, the beam angles. And then again, not just kind of spit all this information, but make it usable, make it digestible. Both offer similar performance. The Satco provides slightly more lumens, while the Sylvanio offers perfect color rendering, identifying the CRI 1000. So a technical term that is relevant only to kind of the lumens and the lighting category that we're looking at here, understands what does that value actually mean and is able to deliver that as a relevant product attribute in terms of a response here. And note, it's now saying, would you like to add either of these to a cart? So again, the benefit of the assistant here is let's limit that friction of visitors interacting with your site. So I've did an initial search, had some additional follow-up questions. I wanted to know more about those two particular options. The tool broke this down very easily for me. And now I can say, add the second one to my cart. And again, conversation, I don't need to tell it, add the Ostrom Sylvania Caps Light Par 30. I can be conversational about how I want to go ahead and do that. Add that out into my shopping cart, note up here in the top, and as part of our commerce system here. It has been added to that system. It added to my cart. I didn't need to click on anything. I didn't need to do anything else but talk to the tool that we're seeing here. We're getting the confirmation back as well. Hey, we've added this to your cart. Here's the breakdown of what it is, the item, the price point, total cart with free shipping. Anything else we'd like to add, or do we want to proceed with the checkout here? Well, now I might be thinking, I need a dimmer switch now. And this will go ahead and pull back in, of course, all the relevant dimmer switches. But what I like about this approach is because this is an agentic tool, because this is able to call into other systems, add in products to my shopping cart, update my search results, find those relevant things, we can now say, hey, I'm looking for a dimmer switch, and which ones work with the lamp in my cart? Because it is aware contextually of what is in my shopping cart, what is that product, what are all the attribution around that product. It knows the products that I'm currently looking at are dimmer switches and can make that relationship. It can build out that compatibility. So again, instead of having to double check a bunch of different spreadsheets and look at product specification sheets and maybe reach out to, Rudy in support to get a direct answer, I'm just asking the tool here. I've got a product in my cart. I'm looking for a dimmer switch. These are the ones that match that. And one really other quick thing that I want to add here, I know that we're coming up here on time, but it's a very important thing. And Ari was correct in kind of highlighting it. Like we've got the old guy, used to the old green screen punch out systems, used to faxing in those orders. One of the cool things that we can do about this whole experience is that we can just start from the perspective of attaching items. So what I'm going to show you here, let me really quickly cancel this for a second because I do want to show you that we have this kind of, an example purchase order. I've got a purchase order in my system. I just want to reorder these items. I don't want to have to go through the whole process again. Maybe I'm that old school guy who really kind of looks at a lot of this technology. He's like, yeah, I don't really think it's going to work for me. They can take this kind of a purchase order. They can attach that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and attach that same purchase order that we have here. This could also, of course, work from a mobile device. I want to take a photo. I want to upload a photo. I want to analyze that. We've attached that item there, and I can say, I'm looking to reorder these items. And it can look at the PDF, it can look at that purchase order, understand what is within that purchase order, understands there's LED task lights, there's seagull lightings, and so now it's going to go ahead and search for those items, pull back in that product listing for me, so I can go ahead and directly add those items to my shopping cart, again, without ever needing to leave the assistant, without ever needing to reach out to someone else. And of course, as an agentic tool, I can even say, what have I ordered in the past? I can look at my order history, understand, I can compare, do I have any of these, if I purchased any of these in the past, am I looking at anything that I might have previously purchased? The idea here is really being able to take advantage of all of the information that you have in your systems, your blog posts, your PDFs, your spec sheets, your product catalog, all of your order history, your CRM, all of that information. Let's put it into a central repository, which we can then use to kind of drive these kind of conversational approaches. I know we've really been focusing. Go ahead,
You're not just reaching out to the product catalog here, right? You're reaching out to many different systems of record here, which is a really important piece of this. This assistant can not only be an assistant to, finding products, but to, like we talked about earlier, answering questions, even looking at order history.
Yep. Yeah, it becomes a really powerful tool to, again, and every one of these use cases that we just walked through is a chance for you to lose revenue, a chance for someone to be on your site, interacting with their search results, and getting back in nothing. Oh, I did a search for halogen lamp and I got back in results, but I really need to know where any of those 1,000 lumens. Well, if I couldn't use the filter, maybe I didn't notice the filter was even there. It was at the bottom of the page. Well, I can just ask the tool. If I didn't see that before, that would have been a chance for lost revenue. I'm looking to now buy a dimmer switch. I need to make sure that it's compatible with the thing that I just added to my cart. That's another chance for lost revenue. We really want to make sure that you're eliminating those opportunities for visitors to leave your site. You're making this as frictionless as possible and leveraging all of that data to really drive it home. The one thing I'll add is, as exciting as this is, and this is super cool, don't think that we've forgot about our marketers and merchandisers. So we're bringing all of that same kind of functionality into the back end of the tool here, where we can want to create a boost rule. We were talking about how HawkSearch is built on all of this great kind of understanding of your visitors. What's the entitlements? What's the catalog availability? Are we talking about warehouse pricing? Are we talking about availability? What can I walk into the store and purchase? All of those are really classic use cases that leverage all of the merchandising and entitlements and functionality that HawkSearch has built out over the years. But we want to take all of that functionality and bring it into a use case where, just like your users can converse on the front end of the site, I can converse in the back end and say, what are my top performing searches over the last 2 weeks, let's say. Oh my gosh, I cannot type this morning. And we'll go ahead and have the tool now, that same kind of conversational approach, start to call in. And this is an agentic tool, so it's going to call into our reporting analytics suite, our fully revamped data lake approach, their data warehouse approach for our analytics. We're leveraging that new function that we have in there to pull back in what is really going on with our top searches. And it's going to deliver the actual responses for us. Here are the top searches by volume. And again, as an agentic tool, we can start to leverage out charts. And these are commonly referred to as artifacts. If you're looking for your new terminology for the day there, these kind of visualizations. And we're going to go ahead and visualize this and give you those key insights. And this is, again, kind of the really benefit from our merchandisers perspective is not only can your front end users now can I have these conversations by leveraging all of that information and can provide that kind of guidance. I'm like, hey, are you looking for this wattage? Are you looking for this lumen? What works with this? Same kind of functionality now on the back end of the tool. What are my top performing searches? Great. Here's the information. But now what does that really mean? Survival kit and gloves are the highest click-through rates and attention needed. What are the things that are searching a lot that we're not getting the response that we want on? The search term for cook gear has 629 searches, but 0 clicks. The assistant here is rightfully calling attention to this and saying, this is a really high performing search that you're losing revenue on. You're losing money on this search because 629 people have searched on it, but no one's clicking on it. And what's great about this approach is I can say, what is the issue with the cook gear search? And as a tool here, it can now understand why is that not working the way that we want. It'll execute that search in the back end. It'll look at those results. It'll analyze those results. It'll give me opportunities on how I might be able to improve that. So just like we're helping your front end users be able to ask these questions, get information, understand what's going on, that same kind of assistant can be brought into the back end where we can understand how are things performing, what are the actions you can take, and give you that guidance. So really just kind of a very exciting time for us here. We're super excited about this functionality. And again, that leapfrog opportunity. I know you're looking at your competitors and saying, well, they're not doing it. Why do I need to worry about it? Because everyone else is going to be getting to this point. You want to be the first one there. You want to make sure you're driving that relationship with your customers that they know, oh, I can go to that site and I can ask the questions and I can get the information that I need. And your business users can know they can leverage the tool to accomplish what they need to without wasting all that time of analyzing all the reports and looking into the detailed breakdown. It's all about that saving time. Jeremy, you mentioned that earlier, that Meter website. How much time is AI saving us? These are the examples that can really help kind of prove out that time saving there.
And we were talking about that from a front end, giving that to our customers competitive advantage. But really, I'm so glad that we've actually launched these at the same time, our assistants, not only front end, but this back end, because you as a merchant, as a merchandiser, need this kind of power and capability yourself just to keep up with all this. So launching one without the other or trying to do one without the other, I mean, you really need both, right? Because you need this kind of power on the back end to frankly keep up with how fast things are moving from a front end experience. You've got to be able to track, what is happening with this experience, right? And this just reminds me, I'm on calls, almost every day with customers or new customers. And, a big question is, please talk to me about the guardrails here, right? You're talking about a conversational experience. I want to make sure I understand what's happening and I want to know what the experience, you need a tool like this on the back end to keep up with that kind of speed, and acceleration that's happening from the customer experience side, and understand what's happening and course correct.
Definitely no, 100%. It seems so far-fetched, like just a few years ago. It was like, well, we're not, talk to my search results, like that's not going to be a thing. But here we are, and I think it's very exciting times. We're really, really, from my end here as the person who shows all this stuff off, it's been super exciting to see how quickly these things are, constantly iterating and innovating, and how quickly we're kind of meeting the needs of where our customers are looking for as a tool.
Yeah. And putting this on the timeline that Ari walked us through at the very beginning, right? There's the ability to converse, and then there's the agency piece of this. Can this actually perform a function? And of course, on the front end, it can literally put these things in your basket, and on the back end, it could literally like pull up a merchandising rule for you and make a change to that right here in a conversational experience. I mean, that's pretty impressive. We had a gentleman, Grayson, thanks for asking that question, asking about, basically agency, right? Which is going to also require not only agency within our tools, but reaching out, through all the new protocols to other systems to say, I want to perform this action over here. I mean, that's what agentic is, right? That's what this, the last step in Ari's timeline of A to A, it's going to take all of that. So,
and when we look at ACP, so Your customers don't only buy from your website. You may have a partnership with Amazon, for example, and ability to have your product show up over there. And these core protocols, MCP, ACP, and so forth, those are all supported at HawkSearch, again, after the merchandising layer of the architecture. So that means that if you are creating synonyms and boosting and making certain products available only at certain times of the year to certain people and pricing changes and so forth, all that is in your control behind the scenes. And then third-party agents, ACP protocols, pushing content over to Amazon or some other partner that is a reseller. All of that happens after the merchandising tuning that you're doing as well.
Yep. It becomes really beneficial to be able to have these kind of conversations and leverage all of that entitlement, that segmentation, and understand. Again, we work a lot in the B2B space, and so having it be purpose built on top of all of that functionality really does set us apart in this space. Excellent. I
Cool.
think we were going to look
We
for some
have
questions here, right?
we do actually. We had some other questions come in. We had reached out to some folks and said if you have any questions ahead of time. And Kelly, you're in the background, I know, and I think you've got a couple of questions that we were asked.
Yep.
You there?
So kind of, I guess, related to the AI itself, we've got a question around what AI is the shopping assistant using, and can we train the AI on our product data? We have very technical products with a lot of attributes.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. All right.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so from our perspective, the short answer is yes. There's a lot of different embedding models. Large language models were powered by AWS in the back end, and so we have access to basically their entire offering of availability there, as well as our ability to build on top of that with all of the entitlements and segmentation. So that is that differentiator there. We do also have several internal tools to look at the documentation, the technical specifications, the product catalog, because there's so many different embedding models and different ways of kind of looking at that. The example I always give is we work a lot with, like, in the fastener space. We work a lot with like janitorial services. We work a lot with those two kind of clients, and what they refer to as a washer in a fastener space is very different than what a washer is in the janitorial services space. And so you can't just have a one size fits all kind of embedding model that looks at that and says, oh, well, they said a washer, so it's going to be a cleaning fluid. Or they said a washer, so it's going to be that little metal disc. We want to make sure that we're applying the right embedding model to the right client. And that is what we're doing here to make sure that those technical kind of concerns that we're addressing those is making sure that we're using the right functionality in the back end to understand what is your catalog, not just that kind of one size fits all approach of like, oh, well, this was built out for, retail shopping, but we're going to plug it into an electrical distribution catalog and hope that works. That's not our approach at all. We really do understand the difference between the B2B experience versus the B2C experience, and knowing that there's a lot of technicality there that we want to make sure we're deploying the right answers for.
Yeah, and to get a little bit more specific in terms of technically what you'll do with the shopping assistant is that, first of all, you have the power to select your own model. That's just a configuration. So for certain parts of your site, you might want to have a more generic large language model that knows everything with respect to the whole internet, right? It's trained on that. And other parts, you might have a small language model and you've selected that's going to be an expert at electronics. In both cases, you're going to have what's called RAG, retrieval augmented generation, that is going to give you the first level of guardrails that your model is going to know what your catalog is and to be able to provide that information. We had a funny question from Hewlett Packard when we first started launching things with them, which is that just don't recommend Dell. Okay. Don't worry, retrieval augmented. Don't put Dell in your product catalog and it won't get recommended. We promise you that much. Okay, nothing we can do if you start reselling Dell. But anyways, so you have those level of guardrails. You get to pick your own model. And that's a very competitive space right now, and different models are better at different things. And the guys over at Anthropic are all about these, very specific industry models, and the guys over at ChatGPT just want to do AGI, and the one model knows everything and so forth. So we'll see how all those battles with the big guys spending billions of dollars hopefully wisely, shapes out, but you'll be able to select that. And then in addition to all of that, you have the ability to do your own prompt engineering, and we'll help you through that because it's a new field, but it's not a very difficult one. And that way, you'll be able to influence how your model will respond during the uh, uh, conversational experience. You'll be able to tell it whether or not it provides links to product specification pages or just the names, how to format things, how many products is the maximum one to return when you say, hey, I need other things like this. Should it, just show the top five? And if there's only three, fine, it'll stop at three, or let it, spit out a dozen and so forth. So there's a lot of ability for you as a business person and a merchandiser to set the tone of your conversation with your customers through your website.
All right.
Excellent. I think we answered that one.
Yeah,
No, get too
great.
excited.
We've got, I think, time for one or two more questions. This one is actually a question and a half. So the question is, for context aware of sensitive information, i.e. customer history, how is that approach to make use of context but still keep the data safe?
So, we touched on this because it's a really important uh, it's an important item, and in the B2B space, it's more than just a privacy issue. It is, but it's also a merchandising issue, and that goes back to the fact that the merchandising rules, and above and beyond the merchandising rules, the entitlements and rules for business are all fundamentally at a lower level than the AI itself. So once your site has only the ability to give the shopping history to a particular login that's relevant to them, or to only show pricing to logged in users and their custom pre-negotiated pricing in a B2B space, for example. Or you've got sanctioned party lists, and you can't, a big company like Caterpillar, a customer of ours, they can't sell certain things in certain countries and so on. All of those capabilities sit below the AI. So AI can't go around them even if it wants to, even if you're using our MCP and ACP interfaces for third-party agents to do shopping on behalf of your customers, still can't get around that layer. And then the more intelligent, frictionless AI interaction, happens with just that subset of products boosted and merchandised in that particular way to that particular audience with those particular prices. That all happens at a more basic layer. So that is, I think, very important. You should always watch for that. You can't just count on guardrails keeping your AI from going in the wrong direction, because there's just too many unknowns that happen inside of these very complicated systems. You have to limit the information they have access to in the first place. And that's the approach that we've provided. Then above and beyond that, great, you get to tune your prompt and coach your AI of, not showing 1,000 products every time someone asks a question, right? Knowing how to summarize things in piecemeal, right? So that all happens at the prompting level, and then the data becomes secure at a lower level.
All right.
Excellent.
I think we've got time for one more question. So we'll wrap it up with, we use dynamic targeting to help personalize search results, and we have product recommendations built into search results today. How does all that work in the shopping assistant?
Okay, so we're using, can you repeat that? Using dynamic targeting to determine which search results are returned?
Correct.
Right, great, perfect. So this is a very similar answer to what we just described, in fact, which is that the targeting rules themselves operate at the merchandising level. They determine what's available at that particular point of time for that particular customer based on their location and whatever else is setting those targeting uh, rules off. and then the AI is going to produce its results. So what's really important here is that you as a merchandiser may decide that for your particular business, you want to, for example, promote a certain product for whatever reason. It's got a higher margin, you've got excess inventory, it's a better seller this time of year, it has more higher propensity for someone to add something else to their cart and to make an impulse purchase. There's a lot of great reasons that a general AI system doesn't know because it's not you, right? So you're going to set those priorities, and that's going to determine the particular order in which results should be presented to a customer. Now, above and beyond that, there's going to be a conversational component that'll trigger access to those products, and they're going to be recommended through the shopping experience based on those rules. So you don't lose that control, because as smart as AI is, it just doesn't know that you and so and so at the water cool had a conversation, at lunch, and decided that you needed to move certain products, right? It wasn't there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that the last few questions have really kind of centered around this idea of how is it going to understand my specific use cases, and we've kind of Ari, you've been consistent and correct in that response of like we're just built differently. A lot of our competitors in this space are it's an AI black box where they're going to throw it over the fence to you, and yeah, it's going to magically work, and it's not built for those kind of use cases. And on our end here on HawkSearch, we look at AI as being more tailored approach. It's a tailored AI solution. We want to make sure that it is understanding all of those different use cases. And for us, that starts from what you're talking about, Ari, that the baseline functionality, HawkSearch has been driving dynamic targeting, has been driving recommendations, has been driving entitlements in the keyword search space for over a decade. And so layering on this AI functionality on top of it is a natural extension of that, and tailoring it to those use cases is really why we're so good in this space.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we wanted to, we went over, but we could also still give folks a little bit of time back, before their next meeting. So this was awesome. This was fantastic. Very exciting topic. Great questions from the audience. Thanks everybody for joining, and be on the lookout because again, that timeline that Ari showed, we're moving rapidly on that timeline. So not only is the leapfrog opportunity available to leapfrog to everything we just showed today, but tomorrow, we're moving even further into AI and A to A. So guys, thanks so much for jumping on. We're gonna do another one of these in a few weeks, so be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for some great content we're putting out around this. I know there's a lot of great questions around just how is this working? What AI model are you using? If you did ask a question, I think there was a couple we didn't get to. We've got your name. I see those, and we'll get you some answers to those. So guys, thanks so much, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.